Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast on the theme Digital Economy. This is your host, Anjana. Today, we are here to discuss an interesting study conducted by Nasscom and Arthur D, shedding light on digital public infrastructures and their potential impact on India's economic landscape. According to the study, DPIs could substantially contribute to India's GDP, potentially increasing it to 2.9% by 2030 from 0.9% in 2022. This growth trajectory could play a pivotal role in propelling India towards a $8 billion economy by 2030, aligning with the ambitious target of 1 trillion digital economy. But what exactly are DPIs and how can they be optimized to fuel this digital revolution? To guide us through this, we are honored to have Achyuta Ghosh, Senior Director and Head of Insights at Nasscom. Join us as we discuss the significance of DPIs, the findings of this report, and illuminate pathways to enhance these digital infrastructures in our country. Welcome, Achyuta, to the podcast.
Thank you, Anjana. Great to be here.
Before we get started, I have to ask this question that people have different kind of definitions for anything and everything under this universe. So if I ask you, how would you describe DPIs? Can you just give me a quick answer to this?
Yeah, I think we really need to spell that out because there are a lot of definitions of DPI floating around. For us, digital public infrastructure, DPI, refers to networks, digital networks that help citizens access social services. And it's not only social services, a variety of services that they need. We believe DPIs are a critical component of the overall digital transformation agenda for the country. If we just take a step back in the pre-digitized era, on one side, we had government with its internal applications, public distribution systems, which led to innovation at its own pace, right? And on the other hand, we really witnessed private organizations, right? And they created apps, platforms, you're talking about things like Android, Apple, right? Operating systems that created a walled garden, controlling the user's access to network-based content. Otherwise, providing access to only select applications, not all of it. In India, we actually followed a differentiated approach, which required the buy-in from the government and the tech giants. In the DPI approach, the government worked with the stakeholders to design interoperable DPIs, platforms that could talk to each other, enabling other companies to build their own solutions, leading to an ecosystem that was created, which solve citizen-centric problems. I mean, if you look at DPIs like UPI, ONDC, Aadhaar, and then you've got solutions that sit on top of them like DigiLocker, FASTag, etc. And all is built upon this layer of infrastructure, which is the digital public goods infrastructure, right? Backend protocols, EGOV, exactly. So on the framework side, there were three important things that was very important. The visionary framework that was crafted, the Digital India framework that we called. So in the center was the digital public infrastructure layer, the DPI layer that we talked of. On top of it were solutions that were built by government using DPIs to deliver services. And then there was physical infrastructure layer, cloud, internet, network, connectivity, storage, which was the base layer on which entire DPI and the solution layer sat. So I think these three layers really made it a very differentiated approach.
Okay, so what are the exact three layers, sir? We could just reiterate once again.
Yeah, so there is a digital public infrastructure layer, the DPIs, the public platforms, the public goods that is being created. On top of it, we build a solutions layer, which is the front end to the citizens where they kind of interact with the DPI and access services. And then all this sits upon an infrastructure, the cloud and internet and computing hardware infrastructure layer. So there is infrastructure, there is this DPI layer, and then there is the solution layer, which is the front end.
Right. So I'm just curious here. So how can the proper development of DPI in our country could help us reach the $1 trillion economy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And we have to just keep in mind that the digital economy includes a lot of components.
Okay.
Components like e-business, infrastructure, e-commerce, IT services, internet, right? Information knowledge management systems, the connectivity, all that is there. DPI is one component of it. We did an interesting analysis where we tried to understand the current impact of DPIs today. And what we found, we look at current DPIs, we estimate that the mature digital entities, Aadhaar, UPI, FASTag, three use cases that we picked up, we estimate that they would have added probably 0.9% to India's GDP in 2022. This number would have probably gone up in 23 and 24. And it's not only the financial impact, it's also the ecological benefits, process efficiencies, conveniences for the citizens, which actually keep adding in. And if this 0.9% in 2022, articulates to about $32 billion, what we believe is that by 2030, this number can go up from 0.9% to as high as 2.9 to 4.2%,
right.
Which actually means a significant boost to the overall GDP of India. And as a result, the $1 trillion digital economy vision that the government has.
Correct. So this is a very important question, I guess. So while I was going through the report, I came across three layers that are very crucial to India's growth. And I guess that India's DPI has three different layers, that is data, identity, and payment. So which of these three layers will be the most crucial for India's growth and development?
I don't think that we probably have a choice on, which one would be more crucial or not. But the thing is that if you look at the three layers, you look at the payments layer, you look at the infrastructure layer, that's pretty much, kind of sorted to a large extent. But if you look at the overall data layer, I think that's going to be an important piece because India is not one country, it's multiple countries, multiple communities, multiple languages put together. Data resides in multiple silos, formats, in different languages, and they don't often talk to each other, right? I think that's probably the, and the data layer that we generally talk about. I think that's going to be the most important piece where we have to really invest a lot. I think identity layer, it's pretty much sorted. Most of the country's population have got their Aadhaar, authentication, verification, integration done. Payments layer, I think, the UPI-based payment systems is pretty much all pervasive in India. Of course, there are tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 locations, villages and all where that has to be driven further. But the data layer is very important. It provides a standardized, consent-driven, interoperable platform where individuals, businesses, government agencies can securely share and access data for various purposes. And that, I think, probably needs constant, reinvention when it comes to getting this layer sorted out. That's my 2 cents over here.
Okay, so you would say that though all these three layers are equally important, data might have a small edge over the other two.
Yeah,
am I right?
Yeah, data would have a small edge because of the complexities that are involved over here. And the first 2 layers, we have kind of done a lot of work over there, but the data exchange layer will actually allow us to move that 0.9% to that 2.9 to 4.2% that we discussed by 2030, because that would be key.
Okay. So another question here is DPI has been categorized into mature DPI, budding DPI, notable DPI, and state level DPI in your report. So what are the main differences between them?
Yeah. So if you look at our overall DPI model, it's kind of built on, what we did was we worked with Arthur D. We said, hey, let's try to look at, the India DPI ecosystem in a way where nobody has really looked at. So basically try to look at the impact that DPI can create, has created for India. And I think that was the goal that we started with. And when we started looking at the overall DPIs, we thought that, not all the DPIs have really matured. And we looked at 6 variables. We looked at recency, number of years since the launch of a particular DPI. We looked at, indirect benefits. What are the indirect benefits from the DPI? What are direct benefits from the DPI? And then we looked at the total addressable market for each of these DPIs. So, for example, if you look at GST, and it is for all the taxpayers, it's not for 1.5 billion Indians that are out there, but for Aadhaar, the TAM, the total addressable market is all the population that is out there. So the numbers are very different, right? We
Right.
looked at reach of each element. So what is the current penetration of these DPIs for as a percentage of the totally addressable market? So these were, 5 or 6 parameters that we kind of evaluated all DPIs on, and what we saw that about 3-4 DPIs have actually hit a large percentage of the total addressable market. We're talking about other, we're talking about FASTag, UPI, these ones. While there were a lot of DPIs which we have started late on in India, and they are just, scratching the surface as of now, and that number will probably rise. Things like Diksha, ONDC, ABDBM, Parivahan, MyGov, so many parameters that we think will actually. So what we thought is that these DPIs, the budding DPIs that we call them, they just started off. They've really not reached the kind of level of maturity and penetration that we would expect from the mature DPI. So it's not fair to look at the overall DPI universe in India as one holistic, homogenized kind of environment. And that's the way we thought we'll break it up a little bit. So we divided our analysis into mature DPIs, and then we also looked at the budding DPIs as a separate group of entities.
Correct. So this brings me to my next question. That is, though we speak about digital economy, its growth and its development in our country, one of the aspects that I understood while reading upon these topics is that we need to reduce digital divide, increase digital literacy, and address data privacy concerns if digital economy has to grow or flourish in our country. So how can India work towards these goals?
Yeah, so I think India is a fascinating case study for digital transformation. There's huge amount of internet penetration. A large chunk of the population is connected. Significant challenges, though, still remain. Some of the factors that actually led to the growth is growth in digital literacy among women. I think empowering women through digital literacy played a crucial role in overall bridging this entire gap. Reduced mobile costs were also a big driver, and government initiatives like UPI and all the DPIs that we mentioned definitely help. But I think despite all this good efforts, India still has a long way to go and has the concern that lies, right? I mean, while India ranks among the top 4 nations in terms of internet users, there's a huge gap between those who use it and those who utilize it well and those who don't utilize it well. So there's a 61% gap, most reports say, while global average is around 50 odd, right? So I think there is a gap there. So basically, there's going to be bunching of utility of this platform. Second is there is a strong urban-rural divide, right? Internet penetration in urban areas is more than 100% compared to, say, 30s when it comes to rural areas. So I think there is this divide that we have to address. And if you look at a gender gap, internet usage among men has actually grown from 45 to 51% between 2020 and 2022, while women's usage remains stagnant at 30%. So women are not able to use it at a higher level as compared to what they were doing a couple of years back. So bridging this urban-rural divides, gender divides, I think it's very crucial to unleash India's full potential. So I think what do we need to do? We really need to double down on the DPIs that we have created and really ensure that more adoption happens, because the DPI serves as a foundation for delivering essential services to citizens, empowering individuals, and enhancing their quality of life. It also fosters digital inclusion, social inclusion, financial inclusion. All these 3 are very important aspects for a thriving digital society, and that would mean growth of the economy also. I think promoting digital literacy will include integrating digital literacy training into the education system, comprehensive literacy curriculum, targeting underrepresented groups like women, older adults, right? Addressing data privacy concerns. That's another key thing I would think was probably going to be very important. Establishing voluntary disclosure mechanisms to encourage companies to admit to data breaches, pay penalty, ensure transparency, empower the data protection board, drive the Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023 as quickly as possible. I think all this requires a very, collective effort for an inclusive digital features. I mean, the digital revolution presents a lot of opportunities, but we need to focus on digital literacy. We need to focus on data protection to really, reap the benefits of technology advancement. And this calls for a collective effort from all of us.
Again, I want to go back to that question and add a little bit to it. So your report suggests that there's a lack of proactive policy support and regulatory clarity when it comes to DPI and its functioning. How exactly are these factors hindering the growth of digital economy in our country?
So I guess if you look at the report also, what we have tried to do is highlight a couple of challenges that we still see, which is very present today.
Correct.
We look at challenges such as lack of interconnectedness. So basically, different teams, different departments, ministries, etc. They have their own rules, regulations, databases that probably do not communicate very well with each other. So there is scope for improvement there. So I think that hampers development of DPIs. Again, we are going back, Anjana, to the point we made earlier on, the data exchange piece, right? I think that's probably the biggest focus area, I would think, so that India needs to focus on. The second one is real-time data availability. So I think, how do you make the data available at a real-time basis? How do you make the network so responsive, so updated that, the data is available to every stakeholder at a real-time availability? Third is the language expansion model. We talked about how India is very unique. There's so many languages here, and often data is stored in local languages, which makes it very difficult. Even the contextualization is very different. It's not only the language, but also how they're contextualized is different. So how do you ensure that is sorted out? Cybersecurity, we talked of, partnerships across different teams. That's another piece. So I think these are all challenges that we continue to face. And despite that, we've done very well, I would think so, in the last few years when it comes to DPIs. For government agencies, right? I mean, if you look at imperatives for stakeholders to, achieve the potential, I think for government agencies, imperatives to be really cognizant of would actually include, this proactive policy support, regulation clarity, promotion of the usage of existing digital ecosystem through workshops, awareness campaigns, because many people don't even know that, these ecosystems are there for them to use. Setting up these task forces to drive adoption of new digital entities. I think you need to make a cross-functional task force to really get adoption going. Partnering with the corporates, partnering with startups to, say, launch sandboxes for fostering innovation, create those solutions that we talked of, which will sit on the top of the DPI. So I think that's definitely there. If you look at the startups, I think it really, what we need to do, what they need to do is to basically keep building business models to capitalize on full-scale adoption of existing digital infrastructure. This is the key benefit of DPI. It brings population scale benefits to all. Startups have to really think that big. They have to think that diverse of a population to address this and build models to drive adoption of existing DPIs. They should keep experimenting with new age technologies like AI, metaverse, NLP, etc., to really integrate and improve the overall ecosystem. While for corporates, I think it's pretty much clear that for corporates, the imperatives include capitalizing on future demand for digital technologies, build the necessary infrastructure layer hand in hand with the government, set up accelerator programs within their organizations to focus on innovation in digital, to solve citizen-centric problems. And India has very unique citizen-centric problems. And keeping a global mindset to solve, building solutions, because a lot of countries are now interested in Indian DPIs. So it's not only about solving for India, but it's also for solving for the world. And that's the opportunity out there.
Right. So the question here is, what are the kind of policy support that you're looking forward from the government?
I think policy support, we covered that in the previous point, that from the government side, we want probably a lot of proactive policy support, clarity on some of these regulations like data privacy and all. How do you ensure interoperability, continue to ensure interoperability? How do you, safeguard data? I think that's the big one. How do you offer all this interoperability at the same time, safeguarding data and providing, an understanding of raising awareness? I mean, how do you go out and talk to, different stakeholders? And I'm sure bodies like Nasscom and also can really play a big role over here. But that's the kind of support that we are looking for.
Correct. So as we move towards the end of the podcast, I want to bring in 2 points of discussions here. That is, one is Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission and about the growth of UPI in India. Do you think that UPI has actually added value to India's GDP growth?
Yeah, I'm sure you are a UPI user.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that's the kind of yes that I was looking for. That today, I think everybody is a very strong UPI user. I mean, that has completely replaced cash as we know
Right.
it. And there are multiple benefits out there. I mean, there are some direct benefits, there are some indirect benefits. What we see is that UPI, if you go back to the 2022 number that I talked about, which is the $31.8 billion impact that the DPIs have calculated, almost half of it has come from UPI itself.
Correct.
There are three use cases we've analyzed. The first use case is a basic the total the payment cost that is saved because of UPI. So basically, when UPI replaced cash-based and electronic transactions, it actually saves on cash handling expenses, right? You handle cash, you transport cash, you distribute cash, you exchange cash, right? I mean, that is all a cost that is attached. And then there is a markup that is paid on electronic transfers. You put a certain percentage of transaction value in electronic transfers that you do, which is there. At present, UPI does not charge anything from the merchants or the users for sending or accepting payments, right? So there is one of the levers that we see from UPI in the savings situation is the indirect contribution that we say, which is the payment cost. The second contribution we see is value addition due to extra interest, which is earned from bank accounts. So, you now withdraw money on a just-in-time kind of environment. It's not that you go on the first of the month to your bank and then you withdraw half your money and then start using it all through the month as the month goes. So basically, what happens is that, extra interest is earned on the bank accounts because of the just-in-time nature of these transactions. So that's a very unique use case that we thought we should talk about. The third one is a smaller one, which is the value addition due to reduction in the float payments. So basically, earlier electronic payments used to take more than 1 day to reflect, which resulted in money staying in float accounts within the bank. You would lose the interest amount over there. But with UPI, the transfer is immediate. So users can actually earn that extra day out there. And by the way, if you add your 1.5 billion people and there, this number also goes up a lot.
Yeah.
So the UPI is a great example over there of a mature DPI that we believe. And this is only going to increase, right? Because, because this is only going to increase because more people, more transactions will happen. The transaction value will rise up. The transaction volume will also rise up. Right. So both of those two things will actually lead to a lot more, usage of UPI. For DB, I think you have to understand that India spends only 2% of GDP on healthcare, right? It's the lowest among all BRIC nations. I mean, you compare that with the US, which probably spends about 15-16%, UK 10%, China probably 5-6%, right? Everybody is ahead of India, and India starts at a very small base. That's the base number that we are looking at. But at the same time, I think since Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission has happened, a lot of adoption has taken place. I think we are looking at probably almost 400 million accounts within the Ayushman Bharat program. But I think the utilization is pretty low. I mean, for example, we have 80,000 healthcare wellness centers for eSanjeevani. It's a low number. For India, needs a lot more, right? And adoption also 28% penetration at 400 million odd as a percentage of total population. Our target should definitely be 80% plus when it comes to these kind of things. And at the same time, you look at what's happening in the tech sector where you've got AI coming in. So AI can actually help analyze patient data, medical histories to offer personalized treatment plans, health recommendations, optimize healthcare outcomes, right? Algorithms can forecast diseases, patterns, healthcare, trends, enable better resource utilization, and then also manage operations, including medicine delivery, on-ground procedures, right? All technology can really take healthcare, the focus of ABDB to the next level. And I think, once population scale benefits are realized to ABDB, currently it is not being realized. People are not, we've still not got everything in place, but the next 3 to 4 years, I believe, will be a very crucial sector because government has also showed enough interest to, to drive more focus on the healthcare sector. So we think that, insights that it can be generated, all the stakeholders, patients, pharmaceuticals, hospitals, insurance, diagnostic labs, government, all coming together and getting more personalized plans together will really take healthcare to the next level.
Correct. This question that I have in my mind right now is that In your report, while I was just going through it, I came across an interesting point, that is, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission will be the initiative that will contribute to the most of India's growth. Is that true?
Yeah, and in our analysis, we think that's the thing that I was explaining right now.
Yeah,
Healthcare adoption is so low in the healthcare service adoption. So there is a lot of running that we can do because we are starting from a very low base. And
correct.
with the current focus on by the government on healthcare, and COVID has actually showed us that, right? I mean, you need, things like this can again happen. So there has to be a lot of technology and DPI, focus on getting healthcare sorted out in the country. So I think once the stakeholders are able to interact, exchange data, bring up personalized plans, all these things will actually help take, healthcare focus to a next level. And as a result, ABDBM will actually, benefit from it.
Correct. Okay. So what is that one concluding note that you would like to give to our listeners?
When it comes to DPI, we probably have to think global, not only think India. What we're seeing is that more than 35 countries are already interested in adopting Indian DPIs to their countries itself, and they're talking, and a lot of discussions are happening. And it includes UPI, it includes other bacon protocols, etc. And all this will boost social and financial inclusion. And just picture this: India's GDP is $4 trillion, but the global GDP today is more than $100 trillion. If a DPIs could actually create a 0.9% impact today and can create a 2.9 to 4.2% impact in the future, just imagine if this $100 trillion global economy could also benefit from this DPIs. Imagine if a 2 to 3% impact of DPIs happen in this $100 trillion economy, we are looking at massive value creation. So my suggestion is, DPIs for India, we're just scratching the surface. We should look at, setting a goal that we will build DPIs for the entire world, and the world will take from us, learn from us, and implement the benefits of DPI in their countries also. And so solution providers have to think global, not only think about what's happening in India. And I think we as a country will also have to think big that way.
Thank you so much, Achyuta, for joining with us today. It was a pleasure to have you with us. I'm sure our listeners would have gained a lot of insights from this conversation.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Listeners, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with yet another episode of the State of the Economy podcast under the theme Digital Economy. Till then, this is your host, Anjana, signing off.